Picture this. You're dancing the night away in one of Pattaya's hottest clubs when suddenly the music stops. The lights blast on. Hundreds of police officers storm in, separating everyone by gender, and before you know it, you're taking a drug test that could determine whether you spend the next few years in Thailand or get banned forever. Welcome to the new reality of Pattaya's nightlife in 2025. What we're witnessing in Pattaya right now is nothing short of extraordinary. The Thai government has essentially declared war on drugs in what was once considered Southeast Asia's party capital. And they're not messing around. On the 10th of August, 2025, police commanders delivered an ultimatum that sent shockwaves through the entire entertainment industry. Quote, "This is your final warning. Follow the rules, or face a 5-year shutdown. No exceptions." End quote. Think about that for a moment. 5 years. In an industry where trends change monthly, that's basically a death sentence for any business. And while this hasn't happened yet, I'd like to tell you about a very useful map that will take your exploration of Pattaya to the next level. The map is divided into different categories: go-go bars, short time, pumping stations, and body massage salons. In addition, exclusive night walk videos in Pattaya are regularly updated, something you definitely won't find on YouTube. I highly recommend bookmarking the map for link available via QR scan and in the description. And now, let's get back to our topic. So what exactly is this "No Drugs, No Dealers" campaign all about? Here's where things get really wild. Thailand's acting prime minister has set a goal that sounds like something out of a movie: completely eradicate drugs from Thailand in just 3 months. I know what you're thinking. That sounds impossible, right? Even the locals are skeptical. But the government is dead serious, and they're throwing everything they have at this campaign. Every single night, multiple venues across Pattaya are getting raided. We're talking about over 900 police officers in a single operation. Drug-sniffing dogs. Internet and communication blackouts in some areas. Immediate on-site drug testing for everyone present. This isn't your typical show up, look around, and leave inspection. These are military-style operations that can last hours. Now, the government has introduced something I've never seen before: a traffic light system for nightclub violations. Yellow card serves as the warning shot. If 20% of patrons test positive for drugs, you get a 15-day shutdown. Think of this as your "oops, we messed up" card. But the red card? That's business execution. If 30% of patrons test positive, you face a 5-year shutdown with no appeals. This is basically the end of your business. Can you imagine? One bad night, wrong crowd, and your multi-million-dollar venue is done for half a decade. Let me tell you about what actually happens during these raids. On the 11th of August, authorities hit Fine Up nightclub at 3 a.m. Over 100 people tested. Only one person came back positive. The police were actually impressed. In other parts of Thailand, they're finding hundreds of positive tests in single raids. This shows some venues are actually cleaning up their act. But then there's the flip side. On the 8th of August, police raided multiple bars in East Pattaya. Locals call it the dark side. 3 staff members tested positive and were immediately sent to mandatory rehabilitation. No drugs were physically found, but the message was clear: they're watching everyone. Every venue must now guarantee 5 things or face closure: child-free, no one under 18 working, no one under 20 as customers; drug-free, 0 tolerance for any narcotics; weapon-free, absolutely no firearms or weapons; trafficking-free, no exploitation or sexual services; and safe, proper safety measures for everyone. It sounds reasonable on paper, but the enforcement is ruthless. Here's something interesting that many people don't know about what drugs they're actually testing for. What they do test for: methamphetamine, that's the big one in Thailand, cocaine, heroin, and ketamine. What they don't test for: marijuana. It's decriminalized as a controlled herb, not a drug. So if you're wondering about that joint you smoked earlier, that's not what's going to get you in trouble. The numbers behind this operation are staggering. Over 1,500 arrests in Pattaya alone in recent months, 300 plus foreigners caught in the dragnet, 20 plus major raids just in the past 6 months, over 2,000 venue operators summoned to emergency meetings. The most intense operation happened in December 2024 in Jomtien. Picture this: 900 plus police officers, drug dogs, communication blackouts, and even cutting off electricity and water to buildings. They were hunting down drug dealers who had taken over abandoned buildings after COVID-19. It was like something out of a crime thriller. Here's where it gets politically interesting. The police openly admit they're focusing more heavily on Thai-oriented nightclubs, which they consider higher risk. Venues in certain neighborhoods, like the infamous Jomtien Swa 2-4, and places known for drug activity. Tourist-focused venues get inspected too, but less frequently. It's a calculated approach based on where they think the problems actually are. Now, what does this mean for international visitors? If you're a tourist who gets caught with drugs in your system, you face immediate arrest, deportation proceedings, and a lifetime ban from Thailand in many cases. Several foreign staff members have been arrested for working without permits. Most were from neighboring countries, though there was notably one British DJ who got caught up in the raids. On the 15th of August, over 2,000 nightlife operators packed into the Alcazar Theater for an emergency meeting. The message from authorities was crystal clear: adapt or die. Many venue owners are now installing their own drug detection systems, hiring security specifically to screen customers, implementing strict ID checking, and creating drug-free marketing campaigns. Think about the economic impact for a second. 972 zoned entertainment venues at risk. 1,200 non-zoned venues also under scrutiny. Thousands of jobs on the line. Millions in tourist revenue potentially affected. Pattaya's entire identity as a party destination is being fundamentally restructured. These aren't your grandfather's police raids. They're using portable drug testing equipment for instant results, communication jammers to prevent warnings, coordinated multi-agency apps for real-time updates, drone surveillance in some operations, and social media monitoring to track venue activities. Pattaya has seen drug raids since the 1962nd, but this is different. Political backing at the highest level, with the acting PM involved. Multiple agencies working together with unprecedented cooperation. Daily operations instead of sporadic raids, severe punishments that can end businesses permanently, and national media attention keeping pressure on. Here's something fascinating about Thai drug policy. Thai citizens get sent to rehabilitation programs. Foreign nationals usually get deported. Dealers face prison time, no exceptions. Venue owners face business closure, the nuclear option. It's a surprisingly nuanced approach that treats addiction as a health issue for locals but a security issue for foreigners. Let me share some real stories from the ground. In January 2025, Club Panda on Walking Street got hit at 3:30 a.m. Over 300 people inside, mostly Chinese tourists, still partying after the 2 a.m. closing time. 39 people tested positive and were taken to the police station. The club manager faced charges for operating after hours. On the 13th of August, Space Club Karaoke looked clean at first. All drug tests came back negative, but they were operating without proper permits and staying open past legal hours. The manager was detained, and the venue faced closure. The government has a structured three-phase approach. Phase 1 July targeted small and medium dealers with mass arrests. Phase 2 August follows intelligence from Phase 1, expands investigations, and sends users to rehab. Phase 3 September will assess effectiveness and declare white communities, drug-free zones. We're currently in Phase 2, which explains the intensity of current operations. What's happening in Pattaya is unprecedented in Southeast Asia. Other party destinations like Bali, Indonesia, have occasional raids, but nothing this systematic. Siem Reap, Cambodia has limited enforcement capabilities. Boracay, Philippines was closed entirely for cleanup, but that was environmental. Goa, India has sporadic crackdowns during election periods. Thailand is essentially conducting a social experiment on a massive scale. This isn't just about law enforcement, it's about changing Thailand's international image. The government wants to move from the old image of Land of Smiles party destination where anything goes, to a new image of family-friendly, safe, world-class tourism hub. It's a risky strategy that could either revolutionize Thai tourism or kill one of its biggest draws. Tourism industry analysts are divided. The optimists argue this will attract higher-quality, family-oriented tourists and increase Thailand's reputation as a safe destination. The pessimists worry about killing the unique atmosphere that made Pattaya famous in the first place. The realists think it's too early to tell, but the intensity suggests this isn't just a temporary campaign. So, what happens next? Phase 3 begins in September, when the government will evaluate whether their 3-month goal of eradicating drugs from Thailand has been achieved. Spoiler alert, it probably won't be. But what happens then? Do they extend the campaign, declare victory and scale back? implement permanent changes? What seems certain is that Pattaya's nightlife will never be the same. We're witnessing the transformation of one of the world's most famous party destinations in real time. This crackdown represents something larger than just Pattaya's nightlife. It's about Thailand's international reputation, the future of Southeast Asian tourism, government control versus personal freedom, economic transformation in post-COVID Asia. Whether you think this crackdown is necessary law enforcement or government overreach, one thing is undeniable: we're watching history unfold. Pattaya built its reputation as a place where rules were flexible and nights were endless. Now, the government is essentially saying, those days are over. The question isn't whether this will change Pattaya, it already has. The question is whether the new Pattaya will be better or just different. For travelers planning trips, venue owners making business decisions, or anyone interested in how governments can reshape entire industries overnight, Pattaya in 2025 is the story to watch. Because what happens here won't stay here. It's a blueprint that other countries in the region are watching very carefully. The party might not be over, but it's definitely happening under very different rules. But here's the million-dollar question: are these measures actually working? Let's break down the effectiveness of this massive crackdown. On the surface, the numbers look impressive. Over 1,500 arrests, hundreds of raids, multiple venues shut down. But if we dig deeper, some interesting patterns emerge. Take the Fine Up nightclub raid, 11TD. Only 1 out of 100 people tested positive. That's actually a 1% positive rate, which is remarkably low. Compare that to Club Panda, where 39 out of 300 tested positive. That's 13%. This suggests the crackdown might actually be working in some venues. But here's where it gets complicated. Are people actually using fewer drugs, or are they just getting better at avoiding detection? Some local sources suggest that drug users are now timing their consumption better to avoid positive tests, moving to private parties instead of public venues, using substances that clear the system faster, simply going to venues outside Pattaya's jurisdiction. It's the classic cat and mouse game that happens with any prohibition policy. From an economic perspective, the results are mixed. Yes, some venues are cleaning up their act, but we're also seeing decreased foot traffic in some entertainment districts, venue owners spending massive amounts on security and testing equipment, some establishments simply closing rather than dealing with the risk. A shift toward underground, harder to monitor activities. The question is, does driving the problem underground actually solve it, or just make it less visible? Let's look at what happened in other countries with similar approaches. Singapore has incredibly strict drug laws and low usage rates. They're Vandas. But they've had these policies for decades, not months. The Philippines under Duterte saw thousands of arrests but questionable long-term impact on drug availability. Portugal went the opposite direction with decriminalization and treatment, AS, and saw dramatic improvements. The 3-month timeline for eradicating drugs from Thailand seems almost impossibly ambitious when you consider that countries with far more resources have struggled with this issue for decades. Whether you think this crackdown is necessary law enforcement or government overreach, one thing is undeniable: we're watching history unfold. Pattaya built its reputation as a place where rules were flexible and nights were endless. Now, the government is essentially saying, those days are over. The question isn't whether this will change Pattaya, it already has. The question is whether the new Pattaya will be better or just different. For travelers planning trips, venue owners making business decisions, or anyone interested in how governments can reshape entire industries overnight, Pattaya in 2025 is the story to watch. Because what happens here won't stay here. It's a blueprint that other countries in the region are watching very carefully. The party might not be over, but it's definitely happening under very different rules. But here's the million-dollar question: are these measures actually working? Let's break down the effectiveness of this massive crackdown. On the surface, the numbers look impressive. Over 1,500 arrests, hundreds of raids, multiple venues shut down. But if we dig deeper, some interesting patterns emerge. Take the Fine Up nightclub raid, 11TD. Only 1 out of 100 people tested positive. That's actually a 1% positive rate, which is remarkably low. Compare that to Club Panda, where 39 out of 300 tested positive. That's 13%. This suggests the crackdown might actually be working in some venues. But here's where it gets complicated. Are people actually using fewer drugs, or are they just getting better at avoiding detection? Some local sources suggest that drug users are now timing their consumption better to avoid positive tests, moving to private parties instead of public venues, using substances that clear the system faster, simply going to venues outside Pattaya's jurisdiction. It's the classic cat and mouse game that happens with any prohibition policy. From an economic perspective, the results are mixed. Yes, some venues are cleaning up their act, but we're also seeing decreased foot traffic in some entertainment districts, venue owners spending massive amounts on security and testing equipment, some establishments simply closing rather than dealing with the risk. A shift toward underground, harder to monitor activities. The question is, does driving the problem underground actually solve it, or just make it less visible? Let's look at what happened in other countries with similar approaches. Singapore has incredibly strict drug laws and low usage rates. They're vendas. But they've had these policies for decades, not months. The Philippines under Duterte saw thousands of arrests but questionable long-term impact on drug availability. Portugal went the opposite direction with decriminalization and treatment, AS, and saw dramatic improvements. The 3-month timeline for eradicating drugs from Thailand seems almost impossibly ambitious when you consider that countries with far more resources have struggled with this issue for decades. Looking at the data objectively, we're probably seeing some short-term success in specific venues, but it's too early to judge long-term effectiveness. The real test will come in 6 months to a year, when we can see whether usage rates have actually declined or just shifted. What's clear is that this isn't just about drugs, it's about Thailand's vision for its future. The question is whether you can engineer a cultural shift through enforcement alone, or whether lasting change requires deeper social and economic transformations. This story is still developing, and honestly, it's one of the most dramatic changes I've seen in Southeast Asian tourism. If you found this useful, hit the like button and subscribe. I'm covering these raids as they happen, and things are changing fast. What do you think? Is this cleanup necessary, or going too far? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this developing story.